Hi guys, welcome to my build guide for the Asari Duelist. The Duelist is a melee-based character. She has a completely unique melee. It has iframes on it, so you will not take damage during the attack, and it does a ton of damage, so you're going to want to utilize that special function of the class and build around it. I'm going to make a quick guide here, just going over the skill point allocation for a base level 20 character, rank 1, so you do not need additional cards to achieve this, and honestly, you don't need additional cards at all to play the character. You will have everything you need by level 20. So, without further ado, let's take a look at it. You're going to want to max charge. As far as the order of when you put points into these things, I don't really focus too much on leveling things because you're going to spend the most of your time at level 20, assuming you actually play the multiplayer. So I don't worry about that. The character's not going to be that great early on, so just be warned. You do need to be high level for this to really function. So charge is going to have some of your main stuff. Ranks 1 through 3, obviously you don't have a choice in what you take. Rank 4, you could also kind of go either way, radius, damage. Either way, it's not going to make or break your build. It's not going to matter at all. I took damage. I don't really know why, I just did. Anyways, for rank 5, you're going to have a choice between melee damage or power damage. You're going to want to go with melee, kind of a no-brainer. Rank 6 Shock Trooper might sound appealing. The idea of constantly charging might sound good, but you're going to want to restore additional shields every time you charge, get a permanent damage resistance, well 5 seconds, but you're going to charge every 5 seconds anyways, and again, increased damage is a wash, but the damage resistance and the additional shields restored are going to make a huge difference, so take a Bastion, just do it. Backlash and Lance, you're going to use them. They are useful, don't get me wrong, but you do not need any points in them. Backlash you're going to primarily use as protection for your team in maybe a tough situation, but usually like during waves I'm fighting as opposed to putting up my backlash and guarding. But you are going to use it on extraction. Very useful then. Even though it's going to break, it's still useful for the time it's up. Lance, you're also not going to need any points in. That mainly is going to help with one of your other passive abilities that's going to increase your damage every time you use a power, and it's also going to serve as a detonator or just a ranged option when you need it. Kind of situational, good to have, not something you need to invest points in. Offensive Biotics, on the other hand, you are going to have some great stuff. You're going to get the damage and stuff from those first few trees, or first few tiers. Once you get to rank 4, I believe you're not gonna need damage, so you're gonna want to take the recharge. That's gonna help get your cooldowns down a little bit to make sure you can keep charging. You're gonna want to take the weapon damage, since you don't really need combo damage. Your combo damage is gonna be okay, but not stellar. And then in the last one, again, you're not gonna need biotic damage at all, so take the melee damage. One thing about this passive ability that kind of sucks actually is that you also have melee attacks knock down unarmored, unshielded, standard-sized enemies. So on the one hand, that is really useful. In gold, and I'm assuming later on when they introduce platinum, it is nice to have that knockdown. However, one thing about the duelist melee is that it's a little bit wonky with its positioning and the way it functions. Since you do, it'll teleport before you melee. It takes some getting used to, and I've pretty much gotten the hang of it, but one thing that throws that for a loop is that after you knock down an enemy, it does result in less success when you follow it up with a second melee. For instance, there are times when you'll hit them with the first melee, they'll get knocked down, and your second one ends up teleporting you through the enemy and missing the attack completely. And that never happened before I took this talent, so it is unfortunate, but the benefits do far, far, far outweigh that little caveat. And one way you can get around it too is by after you knock them down, don't initiate your next melee right away. Sometimes that's not an option, sometimes you need to because you need the iframes, but if you delay that melee, you'll have a better success landing it afterwards. And then lastly, in your barrier tree, I took max shields. You're not going to need the regeneration delay because you're refilling your shields constantly on your own, so no reason to worry about that. You shouldn't be letting it recharge on its own anyways. You're not going to need the weight capacity. The movement speed, I mean, would be nice or whatever, but the other talent is so much better. Shields restored by melee 20% and an additional 50% melee damage. the restoration of your shields really is game-changing for sure. I plan on taking something in rank 6 once I get another card, so I actually have 6 bonus points to spend, but neither of these are really going to make a difference. You're not going to be killing as much stuff with biotics, so really it's just saving barrier is your only option. You get additional shields if you take a bunch of damage. It sounds more useful than it is, and the only reason I'm still actually planning on taking it is because of those fucking dogs, or anything that can grab you, really, because if something grabs you, which can happen when you're trying to melee and charge, as long as something is in melee range, they've got ways to even grab you during your iframes on melee somehow. But, so just know that that will happen, and as a result, your defense buff from charge is going to drop, and then you're going to start taking heavy damage. So that's when this is going to be useful, is for those specific sorts of situations. If you manage to get all the way to rank 10 with the class, I probably would put my points in Lance. That's at least where I'm planning on doing it, just because it is a source of damage, and might as well get some more on it. I guess an argument could be made to go for Backlash, but again, it's not hugely relevant because charge and then your 2 passes are all you really need to make everything work. So as far as boosts, I mean, you're obviously going to want to use melee and I don't know, whatever else. I don't really care about boosts all that much, I just pop them. And as for weapon, I am a huge advocate of the scatter shot. I've noticed that I am somewhat in the minority on this, apparently. Oh, and also, you're going to want the Juggernaut Shield. I don't have it because I can't afford it. But anyways, Juggernaut Shield when you can. As far as other options for the weapon go, I like this. Well, I guess first I like the scatter shot because it might not do as much damage. Like, I see how I have these 3 shotguns unlocked, but scatter shot 265, Disciple better part of double that, Katana a bit less than Disciple, but obviously on the lower side. It completely makes up for it by, if you look at rate of fire, that's almost double that of the Disciple and the Katana. So, I mean, double, I guess that would be 170, so 150. I mean, it's almost there. And clip size of 8 versus 4 and 5. Max ammo, kind of misleading. But yeah, anyways, accuracy 60, again, almost double that of the Disciple, over double that of the Katana, and that's a Katana 10, I don't know if that makes a difference on accuracy or not. And as far as weight, 35, it is more than the other 2, but it's still manageable. As you can see, I'm only at -5 power recharge speed. And then of course with the shotgun you get a melee optimizer, and then I've got the smart choke, just because it's, as you can see, the only other option I've got, but it is a good choice. As far as performance, the lower damage is completely made up for by the rate of fire and the accuracy. This thing has much longer range than the other shotguns, and the damage isn't even super important, so it ends up being okay. And so what you do then is you initiate with charge, which gives you your damage buff and your defense buff, and then immediately shoot your shotgun. The timing is pretty narrow, so you have to have the crosshairs in the right spot and get the timing down, but you weave shotgun blasts in between everything you do. So you charge, you shoot them with your shotgun, and you're starting your melee at that exact same time. Right when the melee hits, you shoot them with the shotgun again, and then you throw your lance to re-establish your buffs. And then you melee, or shoot your shotgun again, initiate melee, shoot your shotgun, charge, and you just keep repeating that. So every time you do something that's not shooting your shotgun, you shoot the shotgun again afterwards. And then since this has unlimited ammo, you never have to worry about reloading. And that is the biggest hassle with every other gun I used. For instance, one of the other great options is the Scorpion. The Scorpion does obscene amounts of damage in an area, so you can hit multiple enemies at a time with it. It has great long range, and it's just a spectacular weapon. But it only has a max clip size of 4. So you can weave 4 shots in between abilities, and then you either have to keep charging and meleeing without shooting your gun in between, or you have to back off and reload. Either one of those things is going to result in a DPS loss, and moving away to reload also means you run the risk of your buffs dropping, and thus you could take damage and die. And that weakness applies to literally any other weapon that doesn't have unlimited ammo. So I've seen other people also using the equalizer, performing very well with it. I'm also a big fan of this gun, but I just think you are holding yourself back a lot by not using a shotgun, and specifically the scatter shot. I was using the Disciple. It's also a great option, has its own pros and cons, but in my opinion, nothing is better than the scatter shot for this specific build. So I'll be posting a video of gameplay after this. I'm about to just hop into a Pug Gold and see what happens, and then you'll get to see the build in action. So hopefully we'll see you soon. Bye.